Good morning, everyone. Welcome to 13 online webinar for, I think it's not so late to say Happy New Year for all of you. I think it's a long holiday for us. And maybe someone just relax for holiday. But today, I think is a great day for us to hear, to discuss, or maybe some detail from Dr. Huang. I think it's very interesting topic for us. Today we have another great topic for webinar seminar. The title is Conservation of Threatened Plant Species in Vietnam. It will be delivered from Dr. Hoang Van Sam, who let me introduce our speaker first. Professor Dr. Hoang Van Sam is a full professor and the director of the University International Cooperation Department. He graduated with an MSc in 2004 and a PhD in 2009 from Leiden University, the Netherlands, in plant taxonomy and biodiversity conservation. He is a founder and the first director of the Biodiversity Centre at the Vietnam National University of Forestry. He is also the editor of 4 international journals and a member of the steering committee of the Asia Pacific Forestry Education Coordination Mechanisms, the one who the host for online seminar today. Moreover, his academic roles include leading more than 30 research projects and publishing more than 100 papers, supervising 12 PhD students, 62 master students, and 65 BA students in Vietnam, Laos, and China. Guest lecturers on topical plants to students in Germany, the Netherlands, Spain, Japan, and the USA. For today, Professor Huang would be sharing with us in the topic of conservation of the threatened plant species in Vietnam. So Dr. Huang is for to you, please.
Thank you very much, Professor Ranchani, for introduction. And thank you very much, Asia Pacific Forestry Education Coordination Mechanism to host and organize this seminar. Today it's my pleasure to introduce the topic conservation of threatened plant species in Vietnam. My topics include 2 parts. The first is an overview of forest and plant diversity in Vietnam. The second is a conservation of threatened plant species in our country. It's the main part of my presentation. So the overview of the forest and plant diversity in Vietnam. In Vietnam, the forest, according to the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, the forest in Vietnam recently covered 40% of the country, and about almost 15 million hectares, includes the plantation and national forests. The national forest is more than 10 million hectares, and plantation forest is almost 5 million hectares. So you can see here it's the forest cover in Vietnam is changing the term since 1943. We have the first records. It's a forest cover in Vietnam 43.7%, and it reduced to 27% in 19 decades. And you see that it's an increase by time, and now we have 42%. It's almost the same cover when we have the first recourse in 1943. But you see that in the 1943, we have owned the national forest, but now we still have almost 5 million hectare plantation forests. And we divided classification of forest type to 3: production forests, special use forests, and protection forests. Special use forest is we call the national park and national reserve. It's mainly. So the forest area by the authority in our country, and you see that it's managed by the government. Yeah, also you see a lot there, but also a lot managed by local people, household individual, and the community level. For the national parks, we call special use forest system. We have 168 area, includes 34 national park, 57 national reserve, and cover about almost 7% of the total in Vietnam. And in the slide, you can see that the history in Vietnam of the national park, national reserve, according to the international protocol intervention. We have the first national park established in 1962. It's a Cúc Phương National Park. And you see that almost 20 years in 1982, it's we only one. We do not establish more. And you see that when we have the CBD societies 1994 and up to 2004, just 10 years, we have established many national parks and national reserve. Yeah. So this is the result of one of my PhD students. Yeah, he did PhD in Valladolid, Spain. Yeah. And for the plant diversity, we also one of the hotspots in the world, which estimates about 15,000 vascular plant species, and we estimate about 7% of the known plant is endemic for our country. It's quite high compared with also other country of the endemic species. According to document, it's more than 5,000 species were used by local people for the food, for medicine, for timber, for oil, and other purpose. And the forest resources is also important for the local people who live in and around the forest, especially in the mountainous area. So I saw here the 3 hotspots of plant diversity in Vietnam. The first one is in the Hoang Linh National Park. It's a near border with China. And the second is in Trường Sơn Mountain. It's a near border to Laos. And the third is a highland center, include 5 provinces. It's a near border with Cambodia. The first hotspot is in Hoang Linh National Park. This area is the highest mountain in Indochina, include Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia, which the Phan Xipang Mountain is more than 3,000 meter compared with elevation. And this area is 1/3 of the country plant is endemic we found in this region. It really diversity and also high endemic species. The second is in Trường Sơn Mountain. We near that is mountain the border with Laos, also really high biodiversity, not only on plant but also on animal. That we found several big mammal in new fossil in this area. And in the picture, we saw that pseudo risk the ancestors we found in this area too. And the third is in Highland Centre, with the 5 provinces in almost in the south, border with some provinces border with China. In this area also really high diversity with elevation almost from 500 to 1,500 above sea level. I just saw some threatened plant species in Vietnam. Here we can see the Taxus chinensis. Yeah, in Vietnam we have 2 species, the Taxus chinensis and Taxus valentri. Taxus chinensis mainly in the north, and Taxus valentri is mainly in the south. And we also have one APS, just more than 400 individual. We found only one area in Vietnam. It's in Phan Xipang Mountain, in the hotspot of biodiversity in near border with China. We also home with many sea cat species. So far we have 27 species. And I remember that when I was student, we only have the 9 species, but many the scientists, botanists, we discovery and find more new species of sea cats in Vietnam. We also have the water pine in the Highland Centre. We only have small population with more than 200 individuals in that area. Also home of camellia with about 70 species of camellia found in Vietnam, and many new species we just found in last few years. We also have also good and important medicine plant of Paris, that we have about 7 species of Paris, and in the picture that Paris polyphylla. Yeah. We also have really important medicine plant of peanut, Vietnamese. It's a nationally distribution in small area, Kon Tum and Da Nang province, Quảng Nam province. For the orchids, we have more than really diversity, and we have more than 1,000 species of orchids. And in the last few decades, in Vietnam, the scientists discover it's more than 100 new species of orchids in our country. I just see some new discovery of plant taxa in Vietnam. So here is a new genre that found and discovered in Vietnam in the last few decades. And here for species, you see that many new species that discovered in Vietnam. A lot you see that in Anonasi, in Aracasi, and you see that Simarabasi. I found one new species in Cúc Phương together with my colleagues in Leiden University, the Netherlands. Here is you see begonia so many of sea cats of Conva Liariaceae. And you see that not only the scientists in Vietnam we found it, but also many international botanists. They work together with us and discover the new species in Vietnam. Yeah, we see here Myacinaceae have a lot in more than 34 species by Professor Jun Vidan and Madame Hu in Paris Herbarium. With the orchids, it's more than 100 species, and a lot of them, many of them discovered by Professor Avianov from Russia, and many from camellia that I mentioned in earlier. I do not have the enough information for new discovery of plant in Vietnam in the last few decades, but we estimate about 1,000 species. So just for example, in the last 2 years, 2022, we discover 75 new species, and 2023 we discover 85 new species, and the picture that begonia discovered by our colleagues, Dr. Van Sam and one colleague from China. And here is a new species Professor Avianov and his colleagues discovered in Cúc Phương Việt orchids, new genus for Vietnam. And it's a island tooth Vietnamensis that I myself and my colleagues we discover. And here is a colleague, Professor Vũ Quang Nam from our university. He discovered the Michaelia cyanenher. Cyanenher is his supervisor in South China Botanical Garden. And also it's a Martietia sapiensis. And new species on Lithocarpus vuquanensis. Dr. Ngọc and Mr. Hùng we discover in Vũ Quang National Park. Yeah, so hotspot in also one hotspot in Vietnam. And just last year, 2022, we discover 3 new species. And one of my colleagues in Dublin University, he discovered 1 new species of Psidium and put it under my name. Yeah, so Samianum. Yeah. This species they discover in Khánh Hòa province. Yeah. So we come to the second part. It's the conservation of threatened plant species in our country. The first is based on the recently record from IUCN Red List. Vietnam, we have 569 species listed in IUCN Red List. Include one is extinct in the wild, more than 100 species is critical endangered, and 186 endangered. 165 is a vulnerable, and near threatened is a 55 species. It's so many plant species in Vietnam already listed in the IUCN Red List. We have in Vietnam, we also have the Red Data Book of Vietnam for plant and for animal. And the first version of the Red Data Book of Vietnam is in 1996. And this second edition in 2007. In version of 2007, we have 448 species, and include, you see there, it's a 1 extinction, 45 species, it's a critical endangered, 188 species endangered, 210 is a vulnerable, and 4 species in near the threatened. And you can see here, just the next slide, it's the Red Data Book of Vietnam this year, 2004, and will be printed in next few days. Yeah, so our scientists and host chair of this one is IEBR in Hanoi. Yeah, they organize and invite the scientists around Vietnam. We work together and we'll publish very soon, printed very soon. So in this version, it's a number in threatened plant species in Vietnam. It's increased a lot with 644 species. And you see that it's a critical endangered increased a lot. In the last version, we have only 45 species. It's in critical endangered. And after 17 years, yeah, 17 years, the species in critical endangered is up to 135 species, and the endangered also increased a lot with 271. And the vulnerable is 231, and near threatened is 7 species. And in this version, not only on plant, but also put the fungi together in this version. Yeah. So to conservation of biodiversity in general and the threatened plant species in Vietnam in particular, the Vietnamese government, they issue is many policy to conservation. I just show some examples. The main policy is the law of biodiversity, the law of forestry, and we have so the national biodiversity strategy to 2020 version 2030, and also the national strategy environment protection version 2030 to protect biodiversity, the forest in general, biodiversity, and threatened plant species in particular in Vietnam. So I saw that one of the also key important policy which support a lot for the conservation and threatened plant species in Vietnam in the last decade. We call the decision 1671. It's issued by the Prime Minister of Vietnam for conservation and sustainable use of general resources in Vietnam. And just last year, 2024, we already the Ministry of Science and Technology organized a meeting for evaluation of this decision, and almost 6,000 forest plant genetic resources is protect, and almost 7 genetic resources of medicinal plant to protect and conserve from this program. It really successfully, and according to the Ministry of Science and Technology, the Vietnamese government is continue to this program, and it's also very good channel for the conservationists and the botanists to continue to work on this program for conservation of threatened plant species in our country, and also for biodiversity conservation. Some program we focus on the species and family. So first family, I saw that we do conservation of capacity in Vietnam. I'm leading of this project. Is supported by we call NAFORTES in the Ministry of Science and Technology. So far we have 44 species belong to 7 genera of capacity. And the program we found 1 new species, the big tree in Phong Nha Kẻ Bàng National Park. And I contribute capacity for the Red Data Book of Vietnam. And we have 16 species of species. It's in the Red Book of Vietnam, this new version 2024. And we change the name here. Before this species is we call Soria siamensis, the big timber in a big timber species in Highland Centre, and now change to the original one is a Pentasmi siamensis. And the new species that I discover in Phong Nha Kẻ Bàng National Park, we call Hopia vietnamensis. And this species, I propose this one in IUCN press release as category endangered. Yeah. So new for new species, and also new for the Red Book of Vietnam. The second family that I and my colleagues we work on, Jugalandasi in Vietnam. I'm also leading of this project, also supported by NAFORTES, by Ministry of Science and Technology. And in Vietnam, we have 12 species and also 5 species in the Red Data Book of Vietnam. I also contribute this family to the Red Book of Vietnam. So Vietnam, we have second hotspot of Jugalandasi in the world, so after China. Yeah. And we have to write quite big project program. We work about threatened plant species in Europe and Asia, and one of the main families that we focus is Jugalandasi. That here is our colleague from Poland. They came to Vietnam. We work together on Jugalandasi. Yeah. The college specimen in Sun Nha National Reserve in Sơn La province. And so we also propose for the new species in the red book. It's this species in Jugalandasi. Yeah, we found in small area in the north and also in Cúc Phương National Park. So it's found for new species, also contribute to the new red data book in our country, in Vietnam. And for Jugalandasi, we publish many paper. Yeah, many paper in the post in the peer-reviewed journal, SCI, also in Vietnam journal. We do conservation of Amanthotaxus agotania. This is one of my PhD students. They did work on conservation of this species, and in 2 provinces, it's in Hòa Bình and Sơn La, and he do for formology, ecology, propagation, and plantation of this species, for quite really detailed for the PhD thesis. Yeah, so introduce genetic correlation in 3 areas that we see found in this region. He also do propagation and plant this in the forest. One of my PhD students, he worked in Anatochilus in Okitasi. Is Dr. Quyên. Yeah, he worked in Thanh Hóa province, and he made sure all information of distribution of this genera species belong to this genera. And in his thesis, we found 5 species in Anatochilus in Thanh Hóa province, include 2 is endemic species, and 1 new record for Vietnam is Anatochilus formosana. And you see some pictures that he found in his research. Yeah. And this is one new for Vietnam flora. We also do propagation and plant, and it really successfully. One of the families that we really like in our group, in our university, we do for conservation and development of Aquilaria in Timalaria, leading by Professor Nha, and I'm coordinator of this program, and this supported by Ministry of Science and Technology in Vietnam and BMBF in Germany. So we found so far 5 species in Vietnam in Aquilaria, and one is Junanensis. It's a new in the picture. It's a new for Vietnam. That before they found only in small population in Yunnan province in China, but we found quite a lot in Vietnam. And here is Aquilaria gratna. It's one of the important Aquilaria in our country, and the quality is one of the best in the world. That we cooperation with our scientists in Germany, in Zurich, in TTU to analyze this and compare with other species in the world. And with this one's application for new records, Jugalandasi junanensis, we found in Quảng Ninh province. And together with the project supported by military and in Vietnam and BMBF in Germany, one of my colleagues in our university continue this project and do plantation for 2 species, conservation and development of 2 species. It's Aquilaria rigorosa and Aquilaria junanensis. And here's her project plantation in Kon Tum province. One of my research projects also supported by Ministry of Science and Technology. We do conservation and development of Cinnamomum parthenocilum. Yeah, and we do for inventory this species in 6 provinces in the north of Vietnam. And we do for the whole information, distribution, characteristic, ecology, attract of oils, and yeah, all information of this species. And we found 54 species. We call the mother tree for the propagation and yield for genetic resources, development of this species. And we also planted 9 hectares of this species in the north of Vietnam. And here just the information of the species. We kind of the CV, curriculum vitae for each species, each tree that we found in the nature, includes the information of oils, yeah, city in Thanh Hóa province. And we also have a lot of publication for of this species, Cinnamomum parthenocilum. I so just would like to show we have them together with our colleagues in Mortum Apparatum, and we work together on conservation of ox Quercus species in the world, but also mainly in Southeast Asia, and we just publish the red list of ox in the world. For the conservation of threatened plant species inside the project area, we have the short publication, one new paper in Plumer. It's a short publication last year in May. So you can see a lot, this one free down in the website, and you can download to see the plant conservation in the national park, national reserve in Vietnam. We analyze all information from threatened plant species. So we found a lot there. I would like to stop my presentation. It's the by the slide of our university. We call Vietnam National University of Forestry. That we have only one university in Vietnam. It's a focus on forestry. We have the headquarters in Hanoi, and we have 2 branches, one in the Highland Center in Gia Lai province, and one in Dong Nai province in the south near Ho Chi Minh City. So we do hope to have more cooperation with you on forestry education, especially on the conservation of plant species and focus on threatened plant species in the world and in Southeast Asia, and particularly in Vietnam. Yeah. Thank you very much. And if you have any question concern about my topic, please put, and I happy to answer if possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Hoang. It's very interesting topic. I think they had the same problem to conservation of threatened species. Maybe in Thailand we have this problem also, but I think your presentation is maybe we have like learning many things from you also, especially the how to conservation of the threatened species. Anyway, for our audience, do you have some questions or some discussion to Dr. Huang, please? Welcome. Yes, Dr. Wang, please.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. Thank you for your excellent presentation. And it was amazing. You discovered so many new species in the last like 20 years. That's an amazing thing. And I also is noticed that you have about 90% of the forest was under the protection, you have like a 50% of the national park, 40% of the national reserve. So, but I was know that Vienna is also the one of the timber production country, right? And so how the government or also the academia, how to balancing the protection and also the plantation.
Yes. Thank you very much for question of Professor Wang in UBC. So I can, the chairman, I can respond direct to question of with several question later.
I think you can respond one by one though.
Okay, so I can respond the question of Professor Wang from UBC. Yes, we have the 42% of the country covered by the forest, and with high biodiversity. And you see that Vietnam also the biggest exports of timber product in Southeast Asia, and the second largest export in Asia, just after China, and number 5 in the world. So we export many timber products, to many main markets. This year, no, last year, 2024, we estimate we export $17 billion. So a lot. So the question you mentioned, how our balance for conservation and for the export timber, because the export timber product also very important for the forestry sector, contribute a lot. So you see that Vietnam, we have more than 10 million hectare is a national forest. So Vietnamese government, they have the policy to no touch on the national forest. Yeah, it's a no harvest in the national forest. So the main product, the timber product that we use to export, it's come from the almost 5 million hectare of plantation forest. Yeah. So they have policy to plantation use a species which fast growing, and mainly from plantation forest.
So are you going to
some in other country? Yeah.
So are you going to increasing the plantation to meet the need for the domestic industry, or you are probably in the future you still like rely on the import from other country? Any vision from the national government?
It's a very good question. So we have the 5 million hectare plantation. So we focus on that area. It's mainly it's the techniques of species to have the more volume from plantation. Yeah. Also import from other country, but it's mainly based on the sources from plantation forest in our country. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought John had a question.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that was a really interesting presentation. I do have a question, and that is how you ensure the documentation of all these new species. In China, for example, there's the e-flora of China and the flora of China. Is there an equivalent in Vietnam? And the only one I know of is this book here, which I don't know if you can see. You're probably familiar with it, which is a 2-volume, but it just has 2 species of cycads, for example. And you said there are more than 25 or 26, I think, and more being discovered all the time. So how do you ensure the adequate documentation of all these new species, and how do you ensure that they get into the scientific world. Is there a planned e-flora, for example, of Vietnam?
Yeah, thank you very much. Very interesting question. Yeah, you see that in the last more than 2 decades, we estimate about 1,000 species. And the question concerned about how we can record it. Most new species is public in the peer review journal and online. And we have in the last few, we have some botanists, we do record for that one, and we just public because we can check in the online for what species public, and they record together, and you see that's just 2022. We record it's 75 species, and last year 2023 55 species. So we publish and we can check it. We can check it. Yeah, it's not totally correct, but it's in the last few years we do it quite good. Yeah.
Okay, and will there be an online flora of Vietnam, do you think, ever?
Yes, it's online. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you for interactive question. Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Huang, I see some question from the chat. And the first one is how much effort is being put into public communication and education about the importance and benefit of threatened plant species? Is mean the public communication and education that do you have some activity or the strategy to do that?
Yeah, I understand the question. Yeah, thank you. That is a very good question also. We have university, yeah, who means about threatened plant species. So in university, we have program. For example, in our university, we have program for management and conservation of plant species, includes the threatened plant species. That for official education system. Yeah. In Vietnam, we also have several universities. It's a not forestry university, but they have the faculty of forestry. Seven other universities. They have the faculty of forestry. They also training for the official program for forestry, include for conservation. Together with the official program, we have the national park system. You see that we have 32 national parks and 57 the national reserve. And many of them, they have the education center, they attract many tourists there. And the tourists, they go to national park, they also have the program for interview of national park, interview for biodiversity conservation program, and also the include the threatened plant species. Yeah. And you see that we have the red data book of Vietnam. Yeah. We have the red data book of Vietnam, and we just public very new update version that also good for information and also education for community, yeah, for biodiversity conservation in general and threatened plant species in particular.
Thank you. I think I have some question is related to your answer is for I think you introduce some activity for the conservation of threatened species, but some question is, I think would provide more detail of conservation activity and how local people are involved in the conservation process.
Yeah, very good question. Yeah. So we do conservation for biodiversity in general, especially for threatened plant species. We have to involve local people because the local people, they live especially in mountainous area. They live inside of in the neighboring the border of national park. They have also a lot depend on forest resources. And the question is how we can involve together. So the government, they have some program to support the local people. They live inside of around the national park for increase the livelihoods. The first thing, so they let go to the impact, negative impact on the forest resources. The second is we also have the community program for protect the forest, and also for some involve the local people to join some activity in the ecotourism. Yeah, for ecotourism, and they have income from that thing, and also for environment education program to introduce them, increase the awareness of biodiversity value, include the threatened plant species.
Yes. Next question is, what is the key national strategy for conservation and restoration of the threatened plant species in response to the current global biodiversity framework rather than keeping on the expanding national protected area?
Yes, so we have mentioned that we have the national strategy for biodiversity conservation and for the whole country. And we also have the national strategy for conservation of national park and national reserve up to 2030, yeah, version to 2050. That is from big policy from government. And I mentioned that's the very good policy from government for conservation and utilization of genetic resources, and they support financial and attract more scientists to do for conservation of plant species. Genetic resources include the plant species for conservation and development. And Vietnam government, we also have the strategy to increase the area of protection of national park. So we have version to our vision to establish up to 176 area. Now we have 168. So we have 6 protected area more we will establish to protect the plant in general, includes threatened plant species. And one more thing I mentioned that we also have a lot of cooperation, international cooperation, do for biodiversity work for biodiversity conservation, includes threatened plant species in particular.
How about mechanism or effort for relevant partner or government to do this to conservation of threatened, and the financial mechanism to enforce the great achievements? Some question from the chat is to want to know about the mechanism that your government or maybe your policy to try to do this.
Yeah, the mechanism, so they can come directly to the national park, to national reserve, to do activity for conservation. So financial from government, central government to the national park. If national park belong to central government, we have 6 national park belong to central government, and the rest is a national park and national reserve belong to people committee if they cover only one province. So the financial can come from the central government. The financial also come from the province that the national park and national reserve is occur there. That is the first thing, directly to the protected area. The second mechanism that is the scientists and conservationists, they can apply the project, to do research on conservation and development. So for example, in our university, we have many projects do conservation and development of plant species, include the threatened plant species that I mentioned in the slide, that we have many projects about Dipterocarpaceae, Quercus, medicinal plant, Aquilaria, Cinnamomum, Zuccolanaceae, many species there. And also one of the key channel that we would like to do and very successfully, that for international cooperation with our partner to conservation in threatened plant species in Vietnam. And the last one of the nearly last slide that we cooperation with our partner in USA to do conservation of quackus. Yeah.
Yes, I think you have the partner, your friends from Vietnam. He tell about the us for helping you. It's very great idea. I think it is quite useful for conservation also. But the question is, how do we keep the balance between development and protection? I think it is good question also. Please.
Yeah. The balance for conservation and development. Yeah, that is a very good question. And you see that one of the main the policy from Vietnam that we call conservation, development, and utilization. So if we do both conservation, the first is conservation. If the plant species is a high conservation value, we do conservation first. Yeah. And some species, if we successfully for conservation, we can use development. If they have the high conservation, high economic value, especially for species I mentioned about in Cinnamomum aquilaria of medicinal plant. So we support the local people of cooperation with the company to develop this kind of genetic resources, include the plant species. So for the income, yeah. And in the last 2 years, the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development Vietnam, they have very great policy. It's for development of medicinal plant and non-timber forest product under the canopy of the forest, national forest. Yeah. So we quite balance for conservation and development and utilization of forest resources.
Thank you. I think no more question from Tess. And the question from myself, Dr. Hoang, I would like to know how your government to law enforcement, the effective law enforcement for conservation tension, because in my country we facing with the illegal for collecting the threatened species very much, and we have a problem to try to law enforcement for them, and your lesson learned is maybe is useful for us also.
Yeah, thank you very much. Before we have so quite big problem with the illegal logging for high economic value species, include threatened plant species. But I mentioned that also one of the key important is for increase awareness of the local people who live there and support them with the increase the livelihoods. So two way, they have to, the local people there, they should have the benefit from the forest. But the benefit is by support them with education of the techniques to increase education, increase livelihoods. Yeah, so they recognize that the importance of the biodiversity. Yeah, the importance of the value of genetic resources. That's, yeah, so we do both for support them to increase livelihoods, also support them to increase awareness of the value of biodiversity. So we have to work together, close with the local people there. Yeah, include with the punish if they have the with the fines. Yeah, if they have the problem. Yeah.
Any question? Any comment? I think in the chat. Yes.
On the chat had 2 questions, I believe.
The question is, I know if specimen of the newly identified species are sent to the international herbarium for conservation purpose.
Oh, yes. When we discover new species, yeah, we have cooperation, and some specimen we keep in our herbarium because we have the herbarium system in Vietnam. and if we have some cooperation and some duplicates can send to other herbarium. Yeah. So for example, I went to Paris of Leiden. We see a lot of our plant species, include the new species there.
Yes, for the chat is Hoang Van Sam. Do you want to respond for the artist?
Yeah,
That
Okay.
the one person was asking me to translate it into the English. Say, what is the most difficult problem that Vietnam have encountered in protecting endangered plant species, and how to solve that issue? This is for one person was posted in Chinese, so I translated in English.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. So yeah, we also we have a good opportunity. I mentioned that the support from government, legal document from government, from ministry, and also good for international cooperation. But we also facing with many challenges for conservation. Yeah, of threatened plant species. So first, I think it's the database. Yeah, the database we have the database, but in central so university have, research institute have, national park have. So we not yet have the national database. Yeah, for conservation of threatened plant species, and I think this is one of the good things that we have to do in the next few years in the plan the future. The second is I mentioned that we have successfully involved local people for conservation, but the local people, because they live in the mountain area, they depend on the forest resources, and also that also one of the challenges. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, any question, any comment?
So I have a question, Dr. Sam. I'm Lee
Uh,
Mobile
yes,
from
please.
Southwest Forestry University. My question is, have you done any valuation research for the value of biodiversity in proportion to the national GDP or something like that? Ecosystems, species, genetic resources, this biodiversity assemblage
Can
valuation.
you ask again? I do not see clear your question. Yeah, Dr. Mao, right?
The evaluation of biodiversity in the
Oh.
national GDP, yes.
Yeah.
Have you done any kind of research regarding this question, this issue?
Yeah, that is very important question nowadays. Yeah, because so we mentioned it's a high biodiversity value, but how we have the valuation? Yeah, so we do some. We already do some in national park for valuation of biodiversity, because that concern about the NCD and the not only for NCD but also the carbon credits. Yeah, so we already do some. Yeah.
So it's primarily focused on national parks or other protected areas,
Yes.
not specifically on like ecosystems or species or genetic resources or certain kinds.
Yes. Yeah. So we also do what for that, but only not all. But that also the good topics that we will do in the next few years. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. Professor Mao.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hoang. I think it's very great job for your presentation. Is useful for us. Maybe we can clap my hand, but I would like all of us try to like give a big hand to him for his great job. And maybe I would like to say thank you again for your presentations, and I think it's very important for us to conservation the endangered species, not only in Vietnam, but I think for all of us in the many countries should be use your idea for try to conservation the threatened species also. Anyway, I think I would like to say thank you for AP-FECM for holding the online webinar today, and maybe Dr. Susie, do you have some announcement for the new activity or anything?
We will, so this one is our last webinar for the first round. I think next month we will have a new round for the for this year. So we will post the information on our website. I also will send the emails to everyone later. Okay, yeah, thank you everyone.
Okay, thank you to Dr. Hoang and everyone for participating today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, thank you, Professor Rajani.